Okay, so I'm working on the drums here. So I went ahead and I isolated just the drums by hitting the solo button, but I hit the multiple solo buttons. It was quicker than muting everything else. So soloed just these four tracks, and there was a little bit of a mess up with one of the crashes here. So what I did was instead of going in and having to edit the entire wave file, which is rather difficult, I'll kind of show you here. If we grab, say, just the snare here, and we say we want to edit this wave file, so we go into wave editing. Oh, look at this. It's like a big massive wave file, and if this was the entire length of the song, this would go to the end to end here, and then trying to work on the the amount of file here is a little hard, because you start zooming in, and although this is just the snare, so it is a lot easier to work with than, say, the guitars. um, but you can see that editing this isn't too bad. But if you went in and had to work on a guitar, and I'll show you how that works, it becomes a little bit more harder. So then it's a lot easier for you to go in and start, cutting and pasting um, just directly from the track, which can be done, and that's what I did here. So I'm going to show you basically on these crashes here. These aren't. This was actually an entire track like this. How I selected it becomes entirely orange. What I did was I found out where the horrible mess up, and it was a crash. Was instead of the crash being hit, it was a tom that was hit as well as the crash. So what I did here was I put uh, my snap line here at the 96th measure here, and I went ahead and hit the T key, and the T key goes ahead and whatever's highlighted, say if you had this highlighted, if you hit the T key, it would chop this into two pieces, whatever you had selected. So I can go Control Z and undo that. So now it's back to one whole piece. So what I did was I sliced out that miss uh, that miss hit here, and I looked down the line here and looked at where it was sitting on the measure, and it was basically in the middle of this measure here. You get the signal roaring on through to the second measure. So I looked at this one. This one's a little bit late. So I went back over here and said, this one looks perfect. So then I went ahead and cut the exact same amount of measures. This was 3 measures long. So I cut it, and I went copy. I went ahead and copied it, and then I brought my shuttle over here, and I pasted it in, which coincidentally pushed this over this way. So, I mean, it's a little bit, it's inserting, and that's what it does when it inserts. So I just brought it back. Another way you can do this is go ahead and you can, if you find something from here, you can go to an empty track, say that you copied that, and your shuttle is here. So when we go to this track with the ride is actually way back on the other end here. If we go backwards, we'll see that the ride starts way back there. So we'll come over here. We're not going to be pushing anything further on this track. So if we come here and we go Control V, or paste it in. Now my crash, which I've duplicated from over here, is on this ride, but if I didn't have this one here, okay, if this one was deleted, I can easily grab this one, hold down the shift key, because that will hold this in place on the timeline, so you won't be going forwards or backwards or anything like this. It's especially helpful when you don't have snapping on, because sometimes you want the snapping on, sometimes you want it off, because when you're dealing with wave files, you can get a little bit cool with the effects of coming in before the beat or after the beat just slightly, and you can modify that, especially on wave files. This works really well. And that's why I convert everything into WAV files afterwards, is because it's a little bit more adaptable, I feel, than working with MIDI files. So if I hold down my shift key and hold down this, it moves this in place, and it's in place on my crash list, on my crash track, I should say. And let's go ahead and move back out so we can see the whole thing. Now, if we wanted to, we can go ahead and see where my cursor turns into on the track, it turns into from a arrow to another kind of cursor. Well, I come down here to where it becomes an arrow, and I go ahead and grab all of this. So I've grabbed everything on the track, and I can say glue the whole thing. And I will glue objects. And now, while doing this, right now everything's inside this one contains the entire, if I was to scroll this out with the little thing and scroll it to overcome this and then scroll it out over this way, you'd have this entire track once again in its entirety. This is kind of like a little window that you've created. So it hasn't really snipped anything. What it's done is you've created another instance of this as well as this, as well as the entire track, like this one would be, is contained within this little crash here. And I put the little lock on there. These little key thingies here that you see, these little symbols that would just turn red or yellow, they lock the thing in place. So you can lock things in place. So if I was to go ahead and extend this, like scroll this outwards on this side and scroll it outwards on that side, you'd have this entire track inside this track here, inside this little section. Same with this one here. This one's got the same thing happening here, as well as this one, as well as this one. To show you that I'm telling you the truth, I will go ahead and copy this one. We'll place it up over here, and we'll select this track. I will paste it, Control B, and you'll see if I scroll it out this way, you'll see that this track exists there, as well as to the very end, which is there. So I can show you that that whole entire track actually exists within within that little window. So same with all of these here. That's the way it works. So you can see that I had a few more crashes here, which I cut out because I didn't really want them all further on along in the song. I wanted to end this way. So you can do this. You can also, if you wanted to, you can move this crash around and place it exactly where you want. Turn off the snap, and that'll free you right up to placing the edge wherever you want. And these blending nodes here allow you to blend the tracks together if you bump them into each other, like and do that sort of thing. Control Z on that movement thing. So so like I say, you're not actually killing anything. As long as you have a piece of this crash in here somewhere, you can pull it back out of the hat, so to speak, and start over again if you wanted to. Always save your work and save it into different iterations of the of your track. This one's version 8 of this ice theme. The reason why I call it ice is when we're making for the ice competition on Compose. And this is the 8th version, so I'm going to grab all of these and I'm going to go ahead and glue them. And I'm going to show you what happens when I glue. This turns it all into one brand new audio track. Now you can't pull it out any further because it says, well, that's the end of your track. That's it. It's re-rendered it, and it's actually turned this track into a brand new audio file. So now all those changes that I made are permanent on this. So that misplaced crash has been fixed, and it's been permanently placed into this track. I can always go back to my previous save and save it from there. Right now I will go File, Save Project as number 9. So version 9 is there, and I say OK. So now it's saved as that. I can always go back to number 8 and have it default back to the last version, which had the faulty tom hit in this location here, if I ever have to. Or I can go ahead and grab the actual file itself and drag it back in here if I wanted to do it that way as well, because I have these saved as individual WAV files. So there you go. That's one way of doing some editing. Like I say, this used to be a MIDI file. I went ahead and rendered it out to being a WAV file by selecting it as a solo object and save as WAV export. I should say export WAV file, and this will just export the soloed crash here, which is the only soloed object on here. So it'll go through the entire song and only place that crash where it is, and it'll change it from MIDI into a WAV file. And then I just drag the WAV file back onto this new track that I made as a new mixing track, and then call it Crash 2 or whatever I want to call it. And that's how you get it back in here as a WAV file. And then you're able to go ahead and do all the shaping and the stuff that you want to do. I might have to do that with some of the guitars. So, but for right now, I just wanted to kind of show you bit by bit as I'm editing. I'll turn things on and off and come back and show you more stuff that I'm doing, and show you some things, how I'm cutting and pasting and doing that sort of stuff. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.